Welcome to the Business, Finance, and Justice Committee meeting. Today is Thursday, July 20th, 2023, and I call this meeting to order at 3:01 p.m. Invocation, Representative Sandra Golden, please.
Thank you. Dear God, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for all your blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Bless the families who've lost their loved ones. It's so close to my heart. We ask that you bless our meeting and all our citizens who have come today. Give us traveling mercies too. All these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Representative Golden. Roll call, Legislative Clerk April Lindsay.
Patrick Freeman. Sandra Golden. Randall Hicks.
Present.
Thomasine Yahola Osborne.
Present.
Mark Randolph.
Present.
Madam Chair, you got 4 present and 1 absent.
We have 4 present and 1 absent. This constitutes a quorum. All business conducted will be valid. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes for June 8th, 2023. And when the committee is ready, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, make a motion to approve the minutes with any changes as necessary.
We have a motion from Representative Hicks to approve the minutes with any changes necessary. We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion? Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. The minutes of June 8th, 2023 are approved. At this time, I'll turn the chair over to Vice Chair Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First order of business is TR 23-071, a tribal resolution of Muskogee Creek Nation confirming the nomination of Zachariah Harjo to serve as the Secretary of the Nation for the Muskogee Creek Nation. Sponsor, Thomasine Yahola Osborne.
Motion for due pass.
Motion made by Ms. Osborne and seconded by Mark Randolph. Discussion.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Mr. Harjo, if you'd come up, please.
Ms. Chair.
We normally would ask, we would probably go past not interviewing today. We would ask you to come before the full council during pre-agenda. But I think because we've got another piece of legislation that ties into this nomination, I'd like for you to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Thank you. So as many of you know me, I am a citizen of the Muskogee Nation. I'm from Norman, Oklahoma. I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Kansas in Public Policy and Administration. I originally started my master's in Public Policy Administration at the University of Kansas as well, but ended up completing a legal degree, a master's in legal studies from the University of Oklahoma College of Law. And with my time here at the Nation, I've really expanded, I believe, both my technical expertise as well as my economic and policy base to inform the work that the Nation has taken on in the last several years, especially with the response to the pandemic and responding to McGirt. And so I think that with my particular tenure as the Deputy Secretary and then Acting Secretary, we've really made some progress in terms of responding to the jurisdictional issues that we've faced with McGirt. And based on my academic and educational and work history, I think I am very primed to respond in the manner that is respectful of the nation's sovereignty, but also is progressive. And what I can say is that in my time as the Deputy Secretary and then Acting Secretary, I have defended the nation's legislation and jurisdictional prowess in all assets in front of federal agencies, in tribal caucuses, in meetings between tribal nations and non-tribal partners. I've done my best to assert our sovereignty and jurisdiction in the manner that is reflective of our historic court cases that we've won or been on the winning side of. And with this council's blessing, I'd be more than happy to continue in my role in developing the economic and political and policy and everything that is to do with the enhancement of our government structure and our livelihood. And with that, we have a lot of room to grow in terms of staffing and support, and with the structure of the office. As I previously iterated, it is my belief that the former position of the Secretary of the Nation in Commerce, actually the current position of the Secretary of the Nation in Commerce before a codified split, is really too much for one person to oversee effectively for a nation of our size and where we need to go in terms of our economy and our government infrastructure and the services that we provide. If you look at any of our peers, the Chickasaw and Choctaw or Cherokee, these are all split out duties and responsibilities between essentially a Secretary of State and a Secretary of Commerce. And us taking that next step, I think, is instrumental in our ability to also diversify our economy beyond gaming and really establish infrastructure that will return both goods and services, but also revenue back to the nation, particularly in the southern portion of our reservation, as most of our economic development occurs in Tulsa. But as I mentioned, this cannot be done by one person alone or even one department head. And so the split that we proposed in NCA 2370 codifies the responsibilities of the Secretary of the Nation, who will still be involved in the policy and economic development of the nation, but defines the role of the Secretary of Commerce as the outward-facing kind of business side of the affairs and governmental structure within the nation. And as we all know, that some of the enterprises that the nation owns and operates, such as One Fire, are now under the purview of the Secretary of the Nation in Commerce, a function that Chief of Staff Jeff Fife has taken on while I've been the Deputy Secretary and Acting Secretary as well. But the Secretary of Commerce would replace the need for Chief of Staff Fife to oversee all that and enact, someone on the cabinet level beyond the Chief of Staff and Secretary of the Nation to engage with those business matters and provide expertise that, I'll be completely candid, I don't have. I'm very strong in anything legal and policy and economic development in terms of structures and governmental assets. But if you're asking me to address the books of a business that we've owned and operated for almost a decade, that's kind of outside of my wheelhouse. But beyond that, the things that I am very attuned to are more of the governmental and negotiations and affairs between the nation and our peers, be that other tribes or municipal partners. I think those are areas that I really excel in, but the day-to-day business and commerce development of the nation should go to someone that has that specific background and expertise, in my opinion. And the legislation that we propose, I think, reflects that.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not really a question, but Mr. Hardraw, I just want to say I appreciate what you have done for the tribe in a short time. Where do you foresee this going when we split?
I foresee a lot of continued partnerships. So if we look at the model that exists with the Chickasaw Nation, Secretary Boren and Secretary Lance of Chickasaw Nation, they represent the Secretary of State and Secretary of Commerce. There is a lot of overlap, but there's defined responsibilities as to which programs, businesses, offices, and functions that each secretary oversees. And so the nature of our relationship will probably remain intertwined in terms of projects that we take on, but there's two different aspects, I believe, to those roles. One is more internal and about jurisdiction, that would be the Secretary of the Nation, and one's more external in terms of the commercial affairs and development of the nation, and that's the Secretary of Commerce. And where I see them moving forward is really working in tandem in developing these kind of long-term business partnerships and practices on the outward side, and then internally, the Secretary of the Nation would focus our efforts on building our capacity in terms of the government and our practice of our sovereignty, so operationalizing our sovereignty to reflect all of the future business endeavors that we hope to achieve and move towards in the future. So I think they'll both be heavily intertwined moving forward, but the separation of duties I think is important. And so as proposed in NCA 2370, the Secretary of Commerce would directly oversee some of the revenue generating programs and businesses that the nation operates, such as Fountainhead Golf Course, the Muskogee Loan Fund, marketing and tourism and recreation. And each one of those offices and programs, while in name they generate revenue, they really need to have the direction of someone who has the business acumen to take governmental assets of their kind and take them to the next level. I know that, for instance, marketing and tourism has an online store that is more or less defunct at the moment. That's an area for improvement, but beyond the fact I just don't have the material time to invest in that, there's a different professional lens that a different professional besides myself is going to be able to look into that and develop it in ways that we currently don't have on staff. And so, like, as I mentioned before, I think there will be a lot of overlap and partnership between those two offices, but the legislation defines their specific responsibilities based on the structure of the governmental program that the secretary is overseeing. One's, like I said, more internal, that'd be Secretary of the Nation, and the more external facing and revenue generating programs, services, and functions are going to be fall under the Secretary of Commerce.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to ask the sponsor if I could possibly be a co-sponsor.
Yes, sir, that's fine.
So, Mr. Hicks, your name will be added to the co-sponsor.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Harjo.
Mr. Randolph?
I want to say thank you also, Mr. Harjo. I've seen your work, and it's very impressive. You've done an outstanding job for us. I support you 100%, and I, too, would like to be a co-sponsor.
Yes, sir,
Thank you.
that's fine.
And your name will be added to. Any more questions for committee? Is there any questions for councilmen online?
Yes, Chairman, this is Representative Harjo.
Mr. Harjo, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear everything that you stated, Mr. Harjo. You mentioned something that, and I'm glad you're able to see yourself in the capacity that you are, but I'm also glad to hear that you're speaking in terms of the capacities that you don't have. And so would that be something that we would be actually reaching out and trying to find a particular person that could be that person that would be good to do the business side as far as helping to develop the marketing maybe even a little bit better, and maybe even looking into other maybe lucrative maybe businesses that may be out there that the tribe might try to buy or be a part of? And would that be a person that could help develop a team? So that way on the business side would then you would keep everything lined out and straight as far as everything that needed to be taken care of on your side of the table. Would that be something we would be doing, is finding a particular person that could develop a team that could help us to really begin to get out in the business world, that knows what is going on in today's society and understands business in today's society?
Councilman Harjo, to answer your question, yes, and yes on multiple levels. However, at the present, we do have a acting Secretary of Commerce in Guy Barker, who I believe provides that expertise and knowledge both on a tribal level, but on a professional level as well. He has the years of experience, in addition to it being a tribal-specific experience. So on that level, yes, in terms of the Secretary, I think that if there's a need for additional I guess, personnel scouting for that Secretary of Commerce position, absolutely. I'm more than happy to look into my own resources as well as the different spheres of professionals that I'm privy to, as well as, whatever else the executive office and council would like me to look into. But beyond that, on a governmental side, we're also looking to build that same capacity internally beyond the chief executive of the proposed Department of Commerce. So within the Secretary of the Nation, we will still retain some economic development interests as well as generation, including the Tribal Utility Authority, but in particular, the Planning Department has a economic development specialized focused. And so the current planning manager, Dylan Harding, as well as some other of my staff members will remain with the Secretary of the Nation, are looking into those specific business opportunities and anything that will enhance enhance the nation's economic livelihood, as well as help us expand our jurisdictional practices. So to answer your question, like I said, yes, in both capacities at the high administration level of the Secretary of Commerce, but also internally through the staffing of the Secretary of the Nation.
Thank you. Well, I have one more question, if that's okay, Madam Chairman.
Go ahead.
Now, will this also provide that opportunity now for outside possible businesses to have a particular number that they can actually call at the tribe to where they can begin to reach out to the tribe to see whether or not if we're interested in any businesses that anybody may have to offer? So will we have and be able to put that out there now so that people will know where to go to if they want to do business with the tribe?
Absolutely, and the Secretary of the Nation's office already fields a lot of those questions and calls, and so I don't propose a change in that process. What I've always told citizens or anyone reaching out to our office to engage with the nation on any capacity is they're more than welcome to reach out, and if I'm able to coordinate with the correct person, be it economic development or social services related, I'm more than happy to answer a call and forward it to the right person. So we do field a number of calls from tribal citizens and other potential business partners that are looking to make that connection with the nation. Hopefully internally, yes, that we'll be forwarding those calls directly to the Secretary of Commerce and the future positions planned for that office.
Thank you. Now, Madam Chair, I don't know whether or not this is inappropriate, but I would like to be a co-sponsor if I'm allowed.
I guess you could ask the sponsor if Mr. Harjo can be a co-sponsor as well.
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Your name will be
Thank
added
you.
as a co-sponsor. Are there any other
Thank you, Madam
questions,
Chair.
Mr. Harjo? I have a question.
No,
Have you completed your questions?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. One of the things that I noticed on this information that you provided is that you've been in acting capacity for about a year. And I've not seen a job description for the Secretary of the Commerce, so I think we've got the horse or the cart before the horse. So, and what I've been able to determine is that we created a position, and because you've been acting, we're going to put you in there. And I would like to know, as the Secretary of Commerce, you're working with these different companies that we've already put together. And one of them is MNB. You've got MNB and MI, Muskogee International. What is your relationship and how are you working with these different entities?
So where I have probably interacted with a lot of the subsidiaries and instrumentalities of the nation to date while I've been the secretary or acting secretary has been through the form of ARPA funding. But prior to that, the relationship that the Secretary of the Nation's office has had historically with Muskogee Nation businesses and Muskogee International and One Fire is on kind of like an internal consulting basis. So if they have a project or something that they need that they're unsure of internally how to fulfill or what steps to take to start enacting the goal or vision, they've reached out to my office. And so my current capacity and relationship with Muskogee Nation businesses and Muskogee International, as well as some of the other instrumentalities, is more on a policy and a budgetary development basis. And so I have consistently tried to provide if there's a need for one of the businesses, how do we enumerate just what the financial ask is? And then from there, how do we identify a goal and a plan to move forward? And so I know I've gone over a number of budgetary requests and items with Muskogee Nation businesses and Muskogee International to hammer out a finalized budgetary request that would come in the form of reimbursement for costs they've already incurred. Beyond that, my time is pretty limited. So I'm hoping that with the inclusion of a new secretary, that there's another person that they can tap into in terms of expertise and getting their business plans and future developments in motion. And so my door is always open, especially with ARPA-related expenditures as we look to close them out in the next 2 to 3 years. But beyond that, I'm open to a new relationship, so to speak.
Well, and that's why I brought it up, because I have a concern, because if we have these businesses and this department is responsible to support them and make sure that they move forward, you know, there's things that they need, and one of them is MNB, and I do know that since February, they've not received anything on those ARPA funds. And I've also asked for reports on ARPA funds as well, and I've been told that we can't give that to you, this is all we have, and it's really not a report. So it's really difficult to, I mean, you're a very smart and intelligent young man, and I applaud you for everything that you've done. I just have a concern, and I wanted to express that. Thank you. Are there any questions anymore? Call for the question.
Thomasine Yohola Osborne,
Yes.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
Thank you, and I'll turn the chair back over to Ms. Osborne.
Thank you, Vice Chair Golden. NCA 23-038, allow the Muskogee Creek Nation to amend Article 6, Section 2 and subsection A of the Constitution of the Muskogee Creek Nation by deleting both at-large voting and at-large representation and replacing it with eligible registered district voting, resident and absentee, and district representation pertaining to the Muskogee Creek Nation National Council. Sponsor, William Lowe. This was postponed from June 8th, 2023.
Hovering over that $3.
Madam Chair,
Representative Golden.
I'll make a motion to postpone indefinitely.
We have a motion to postpone indefinitely from Representative Golden. Do I have a second? We have a second from Representative Hicks. Any discussion on that? Representative Randolph?
I was just wondering if I don't know if the sponsor reached out to, Alicia, do you know anything? Or anybody know anything? I didn't know.
I believe he's currently speaking at a conference in New York.
Okay, there's been a motion to postpone indefinitely, and the sponsor is supposed to be in attendance whenever the sponsor at the committee meeting. Is there any more discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-038 is postponed indefinitely. NCA 23-069, allow the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing a supplemental appropriation to the Muskogee Creek Nation Office of Child Support Enforcement for fiscal year 2023. Sponsor is Representative Randall Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks. We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion? Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, at this time, I'd like to allow employees April Buck and Blair, if they have, or to come down and discuss the legislation.
Sure. Good afternoon. Okay, we're asking for additional appropriation of funds for our budget for the fiscal year 2023 in the amount of $75,000. I do believe we supplied a budget worksheet, but I do have some specific quotes, if necessary, about the budget shortfall and what we are needing as far as servers and computer equipment, if you would like me to go through that. Some of our unexpected expenses was a fiscal year 2012 repayment that we had to assess from our 2023 budget this year, which was $47,964.68. And again, that was from a fiscal year 2012, and the federal government asked for that money back. It was money that wasn't spent. It was money that we weren't aware of, but we had to pay that back out of our physical budget from this year. And in addition, there was an authorization for a vehicle to be purchased for our program in the amount of $42,608. We still do not have that vehicle in our possession, but it has been paid for out of our 2023 funds. Also, being a child support program, we have different contracts with the state of Oklahoma. We also have access to federal tax information through the IRS, and we have to maintain separate servers, maintain certain level of security within our program in order to maintain and continued access to federal tax information. And so for that, we need some upgraded servers in our office. And that amount that we need is $25,493.37 for those additional servers to be upgraded within our office. We also need 4 additional computers. That total is $10,718.84. That is where the additional money that we need is coming from. Those are the exact cost and expenses.
Anybody have any questions? Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Buck, you mentioned you had an amount that was not spent and you had to return.
Yes, and that was from the fiscal year 2012. It was something with finance, and the federal government asked for that money to be repaid back, and that specific number was the $47,964.68 that was repaid out of our fiscal budget 2023 that we did not budget for.
Okay.
Because there was no knowledge that it needed to be paid back.
Okay, so you had to pay back something from 2012. That was my next question, was who actually monitors your budget or your finances?
That particular amount was not from our office. It was something within the finance department that they needed paid back.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Any questions from the representatives in attendance or online? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-069 passes. Ms. Killian, we need a funding source for this, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, that would be interest on permanent fund.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
At this time, I'll turn the chair over to Vice Chair Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next order of business is NCA 23-070, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation amending NCA Title 16, Chapter 8, entitled Office of the Secretary of the Nation and Commerce, and creating a new Chapter 11 entitled Secretary of Commerce. Sponsor, Thomasine Yahola Osborne.
Chairman, I make a motion for due pass.
Motion for a due pass by Ms. Osborne, Second by Mark Randolph. Discussion.
Thank you, Chair. Is there any other questions that we want to ask of Mr. Harjo?
I'd like him to come forward and explain the legislation. I do sort of have a question.
I'm ready for the question.
In the body of the legislation, I see that Secretary of Nation is scratched out. I mean, the Secretary of Nation is on here, and what is lined through is commerce. So if this is for commerce, maybe I'm misunderstanding, if this is the legislation creating Commerce Department. So that's why I'm asking if you can explain it to me.
Yes, so it's amending the current title of Secretary of Nation and Commerce, and it's striking "and Commerce" from that title, or that chapter, I should say, and then establishing a new chapter that is labeled the Secretary of Commerce. So it proposes revisions to the chapter of Secretary of the Nation and Commerce to reflect that chapter is reflective of the Secretary of the Nation and their responsibilities, and then establishing a new chapter, I believe it's Chapter 16, title Secretary of Commerce, and then establishing their defined duties as well underneath that new proposed amendment.
So it just seems to me that they should be totally separate, but it's me. On the Secretary of Commerce, duties and responsibilities, it does mention, well, on D, it says Secretary of Nation and Commerce shall be lead governmental agency. So they'll be working in conjunction or separate at that point.
Which section are you
Loan
referring to?
fund shall be established under the Secretary of Commerce. That's new. It gets on to end of it. Department of Commerce.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't hear your last comment.
Excuse me?
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear your last comment or your last question.
My last, it was about, there's just like more or less a paragraph just putting Department of Commerce in here. And then it gives the duties and responsibilities. And so it just seems incomplete to me, that's why. You said earlier that a person named Guy Barker, he's acting secretary of something?
He's been named acting, yes.
What is he acting for?
He's fulfilling the acting Secretary of Commerce position, but until it can be legally, all the changes that are proposed can be actually moved under him, we have to codify the law. So he's been named, but it's, in my opinion or understanding, it's the name only until we codify the change.
So we've hired somebody in a position that we really don't have. And we're moving you to a different. Oh, okay. I understand. I'm sorry. But that's all I have. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Council President? Any questions for council members online? Call for the question.
Thomasine Yohola Osborne,
Yes.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 3 in favor and 0 against.
That legislation has motion passed. I'll turn it back over to Chairperson Thomasine Yohola Osborne.
Thank you, Vice Chair Golden. Next item on the agenda is referred legislation, and there are 3, NCA 23-046, NCA 23-047, and NCA 23-068. Ms. Killian, what is the funding source for these 3 pieces of legislation, please?
They will all be interest on permanent fund.
Okay, interest on permanent fund. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Do I have a motion to approve the funding sources?
I have a question. On the report that we received on funds available for the appropriation, and it appears that the monies that we just approved is more than what we received for the last quarter. And the available at, here it says 10/1/22. So is that a mistake, or is this really up to date?
Ms. Killian, that question's for you.
What line item is she looking at? What, I didn't hear her
It wa-
full question.
It was the report that you sent us, the funds available report.
Yes?
Madam Chair,
Representative Hicks?
motion was made. Does that need to have a second before discussion?
Nobody, there was no
Just the
motion.
funding source.
You just asked for the motion, but nobody.
Just checking.
Go ahead, Representative Golden. She didn't understand your question. Ms. Killian didn't understand your
Okay,
question.
Ms. Killian, I was saying that the money, the paper that we received with funds available for appropriation, over to the left at the top, it says available, but it says in October of 2022. And since the last interest that we received was April the 30th, 2023, I was just wondering if we pass this is approved for this amount of money, it's more than what it shows at the bottom of where it says interest earnings. So I'm just, the dates, in other words, don't match. I'm sorry I can't show this to you.
I'm looking at that. So it's if you look on interest on permanent fund, off to the, says balance available after balance available.
Are you talking about on the very far right?
Actually, if you'll go on the third column, you've got available at the 10/1/22, current year available revenues, appropriations year to date, and then this is the balance available.
This is what we're going on. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Killian, we got that cleared up. Any other questions? Okay. Do I have a motion?
Thank you.
Representative Hicks? Do I have a second? Second. I have a second from Representative Randolph. Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph, Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
Okay, we have 3 in favor, 0 against to approve the funding source on these legislation as interest on permanent fund. Okay, next item on the agenda is other business, MNGE, GOAB.
Madam Chair,
Representative Hicks?
make a motion to go into executive session for the MNGE report.
We have a motion from Representative Hicks to go into executive session. Do I have a second? We have a second from Representative Golden. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. That motion was approved to go into executive session.
Would you like to stay?
Representative Hicks? We're out of executive session at 4:16 and there is no action taken. Next item on the agenda is announcements. Are there any announcements? I do want to say one thing. Mado to the Mound Oversight Committee for the installation of the chair lift. We've needed that for several years, and I appreciate that. We finally got it in. Any announcements? Okay, next item on the agenda is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn from Representative Hicks. Do I have a second? I have a second from Representative Randolph. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. I'm going to provide the benediction, and that'll serve as our adjournment. Father, I thank you for this day and this opportunity to come to have this meeting and to try and do what's best for our citizens. And as Ms. Golden stated, I just pray for those who have lost loved ones in whatever condition that they might have come home to you, Father. I just pray that, this lady, she has a home now, and it's with you. So, Father, be with, again, those who lost loved ones. I know there was another gentleman from Walika who passed away yesterday as well. So lots of people out there who need those around them to pray for them and to love them. And so, Father, I just be with each and every person, our citizens, Father, in whatever condition they may be in, whether it's financial, whether it's housing, whatever it is, Father. I just pray that you send someone to lift them up. And Father, I just pray for those who don't have air conditioning, Father. I know that's a big deal for a lot of our people. So I just pray again that we can offer some sort of cooling system for those, or someone around them can. So Father, I just again thank you for this opportunity. I pray for traveling grace in all these things. I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.